Does that come out?
Yeah. Yes. How do I flip this? Okay, flip. All right. If I can adjust this. Yes.
So what's
Sir,
going on?
help
What's
me.
going on?
I'm here.
Cool, cool. Awesome. Yeah, I see you doing some interesting things with AI art.
Okay.
Pretty fascinating. But yeah, man, we're going to talk about it today because a lot of people been talking about AI art and basically, like, you know already all the controversy around it.
Mhm.
And in some cases, it's not controversy. In some cases, people see it as a good thing. I know I have my views, and we kind of talked already behind the scenes on my views, but we want to get an interesting discussion going.
All right. So, any questions you want to start with?
Well, first of all, let me ask you, what are your views on AI? I see you using AI a lot in your artwork. Talk to me about that. Like, what made you decide to jump into it, and how you feel about it?
Okay.
Just
So,
to the point.
all right, cool. So, I saw a few, because I follow a few channels on YouTube, like 2 Minutes Paper. And, I'm always following the latest technology. I like this other channel, Ask MK, and they've always showcased, how the technology is developing in the past few years. But it still came as at a surprise when I saw where Stable Diffusion, where DALL-E was, and then I saw Stable Diffusion coming along, and then Midjourney. I was like, wow, this thing has come a far way in just 1 year, and the later part of 2022, like in about July, August was when I really saw it taking off. And I had planned starting a YouTube channel and do some digital art, buy a little digital tablet and do some tutorials on how to do digital painting and so forth. And then boom, AI is like a slap in the face. So I get what all of the artists is feeling. I was like, whoa, do I start a YouTube channel again? Because it seems as if digital art is dead. It seems as if I need to switch back to traditional or continue focusing on 3D. But even with 3D, you still have to get 3D done to 2D to to showcase it, sell it as prints, as whatever. So it still comes down to 2D. A lot of traditional artists, they digitize their work and print it, So the AI is jumping into that space. So I was a bit shocked and appalled that I seem a bit obsolete, and I saw the news about this guy who won an art competition with it. But my mindset, I've always had a mindset growing up of adaptation and learning different things. I dabble in a wide range of arts and crafts. So, I've always had that fearless adaptive mindset to paint. So I decided to test it out and see what it was all about. And I was a bit fascinated by it and terrified. But then, even though I was terrified, I calculated and say, what if this thing is here to stay? What if, this is the new future? What are we going to do? So I started brainstorming ways in how we could adapt to a world of AI as digital artists. I started considering and thinking about, the younger people who is just starting. I have a 10-year-old nephew and a 20-year-old nephew that I'm actually teaching animation and a bit of digital art and so forth. And, they want stuff that is like very quick. I'm teaching them how to animate a bouncing ball, and they're like, hey, you don't have any program where you can just click. There's a guy, and you just tell him to dance. And that's the mindset of younger people. They would rather play games where they can just, block out things worlds really quickly. I'm trying to convince them that, the foundation is necessary. And to segue that into AI art, even though AI art is there and it's doing its thing, I still think that the fundamentals and knowing art principles is still absolutely necessary, because how are you going to art direct this thing? Is just
Yeah,
random. It creates random stuff. So for the people who are looking for random work, just this aesthetically pleasing thing, it can pass. But what about in a pipeline, in a studio pipeline, animation studio, movie studio, ad agency, and you need something specific?
right.
How do you do that?
Yeah, yeah,
So
I agree.
people are fearful, but if you are in that design pipeline, then you have nothing to fear, because if you understand art principle, you're able to even use this in your workflow or outclass AI. The fact that you understand the nuances of the world, and what a client or what consumers want exactly.
Right, right. No, man, I agree with you. I agree with you because I'm looking at it and I know people are afraid that your AI is going to take away their jobs. And I mean, the fact is, on some levels, that's true, and then on other levels, it's not. Right? And
Mm,
it's true in a way that, when Photoshop came along, your traditional graphic artists will think, boy, everybody can do, put two shapes on a screen and call themselves graphic artists. But eventually
yeah.
Photoshop became a tool to just enhance your workflow, make your work faster. And it's the same thing with like video editing software. People who traditionally cut film and stitch it together, they would have lost their jobs. But then you
Mhm.
adapt and learn this new skill that you take on. So with I think the reason why people fear AI is because AI feels as if it can take over everything. You just put in a few words and you get this beautiful piece of art. But like you said, it's random. Yes, you can direct it with your words, but it's like I remember seeing a meme, and in the meme it said, "Hey, aren't you worried about AI taking over your job?" And him said, "No, clients don't know what they want." So you have to know what you want in order to tell the AI, and that's the purpose of us as artists. We know how to communicate certain things.
Mhm.
The other day I had a client, and they wanted some music in the background of their piece, and the
Mhm.
message in the piece was a little bit ominous. So
Mhm.
we chose a ominous sounding music, and they were saying, "Boy, the ominous sounding music sound kind of dead. They want something more upbeat." And I said, "That's going to contradict your message, And they were like, "No, man, we just want to play it during the second half, whatever." And I said, "No, man, it's going to contradict your message. It's not going to. When it contradicts your message, people are not going to know how to feel about the message, because they're going to hear this dark message, but then the music is
Yeah.
upbeat, and they're either going to interpret it as sarcastic, or they're going to interpret the message as positive."
Yeah.
And they insisted they wanted it anyway. And then when they played it alongside it, the first thing they said to me was, "Is that the same music that we told you to put on it?" And I said, "Yes." And I said, "Why it sounded different by itself?" And I said, "Yeah, it sounded different by itself because you're not watching it with images. But then the
Mhm.
instant you put images to it, you start to
Yeah.
realize." And in situations like that, you have to rely on the artist knowing what they are
Mhm.
doing, right? Because you hire them for a specific reason. With AI,
Yes.
AI is not going to push back and say, "Hey, that's not going to work." It's just going to give you what you tell it to give
Yeah.
you. And then we could end up in a situation where you put out artwork that might offend people, or you put out
Mhm.
artwork that doesn't have the impact that you want, even though the artwork look pretty. You still need us there. If somebody even said to you they want somebody that look, let's say somebody wants to conceptualize a Captain Jamaica, as opposed to a Captain America.
Yeah.
The AI spit out something looking just like Captain America, but just with a Jamaican flag colors. And suppose that's not what you want. Suppose you want something very unique,
I
something.
think I think the conversation is about where you fall in terms of the art and design
Yeah,
discipline that you are focused on, because you have a lot of people that their bread and butter is doing art,
yeah,
a print, just aesthetically pleasing thing that people like, and they hang it up in their house,
yeah,
you know and they're not necessarily a part of a design pipeline. So they see AI cutting into that,
Yeah.
category, because it's this random stuff that you can put up and people say, hey, I like this, I'll buy it. So I think the designers who are in a pipeline or in industry where they're just one part of a cog in a machine, I think they are less intimidated by it because they see where it breaks when it comes on to that thing to design. Like it couldn't be used in architecture. It doesn't generate anything that looks buildable, and stuff like that. And there's a lot of other school of thought where the ethics behind it, and people are saying, the people who have already made it and their name is so out there that everybody is using their name in the prompts, and they're talking about their intellectual property being used,
Right.
and revenue that they could have they could have been gaining from that. So that's a whole different other conversations,
Yeah.
because the people like us and who are just starting out, they don't have to really worry about AI stealing their work
Right.
and using it
Right.
to
Right.
generate other things. And then you have the people who says, I don't care. It's the first time I'm able to create a portrait of myself. It's the first time I'm able to design a logo. I'm
Right.
able to design a web banner. I'm able to generate some interface, UIX interface, and get some inspiration for my thing. It's the first time I'm able to generate some stuff I can use on infographics
Right.
and fill
Right.
in stuff on YouTube. You're doing a YouTube video, you want to talk about, like, for instance, with my video that I put out the other day, I wanted a pink elephant in a room, and I wanted that image to pop up. I would have to either get something off stock photo and manipulate it, and I actually just got a picture of an elephant and color it pink in Photoshop, and I couldn't use that image, but I could then plug it in to generate something else, from it, and then I was generating an original image that is beyond intellectual property and copyright, but then I manipulated an image to put into it,
Mm.
so as part of my process. Would A lot of people might find that unethical to use an image, as a part of your process. But then, as artists, we often download images, put it in PureRef, and use it as
Right.
reference to create, artwork from. So there's a lot of nuance in terms of where does that great artist steal kind of a thing comes, and then when does it become unethical?
Yeah.
you know,
Question, because people often ask, who does the who the intellectual property belong to? You who gave the prompt, or the AI itself? And
yeah,
technically AI is not a person, so technically it can't belong to the AI. But
yeah,
people ask that question, like, is it really your art? Is it the art of the people that was inspired by? But like you say, we draw references from everywhere, right? And and according to law, as long as you change something sufficiently,
mhm,
right,
yeah,
the point where it's not so recognizable, then you can consider it original art. And I mean, when you think about it, if, say for example, in a Photoshop, if you draw a square in Photoshop, you didn't really draw it by hand. You just drag that square onto the screen. You know, does the square belong to Photoshop, or does it belong to you? You're the one who prompted it. And again, if you were to pretend AI was a person, and an agent
mhm,
said to you, create this for my agency,
mhm,
does it belong to the agency? Does it belong to you? In many cases, we can't use that artwork that we did
yeah.
for our client. You
You
know,
don't hear anybody talking about legality. You hear the term unethical
unethical,
being
right?
pushed around, and everybody have their opinion in terms of where that ethics starts and where does it end.
Right.
you know. But we have to get to the root of what the problem is. We have to get to the root. Why are people upset? Because you have a lot of people, they say, oh, well, it's art theft, it's stealing, people work, so we're gonna just ban AI, no AI image. But then, did this AI that generated this image, did it use open source image? Or are you just going to put a general ban on the idea of AI generating an image? What is the problem? What are you really deep down, upset about? Because in the future, like if for instance some law pass and because now that AI is here, people are like, there are gaps in the intellectual property and copyright system. So for instance, it reached to the courts and they say, all right, all these algorithms, they can't use any body image unless they opt in. You have a lot of people who's
Yes.
opting in, and then I do a painting in the style of Picasso mixed with Kamal, in my own way. And I didn't say this is a Picasso, and then I plug that into the AI and feed the database with different styles. I go lower style, I go Rastra style, and take cues from their style. They can't sue me for that. I'm
Right.
just taking
Right.
cues, a little color scheme that you can't copyright, and I'm using lowish color scheme with her pink and blue and
Right.
stuff like that. And Midjourney hire me to create a. In the end, I believe that AI is here to stay, because something like this will happen where AI, even if you get rid of all the current artists' work, that they'll find a way to feed the AI with images that they commissioned in many different styles. And then people will be able to use it, and you can't say, hey, the AI is stealing artists' work, because
Yes.
now it will have all original imagery. What do we do then?
I mean, let me ask you this though,
We're going to
because
create another problem to say we
let,
just didn't like it, we just never liked the idea of
yeah,
it. What then?
Well, I mean, let me ask you this though, because I mean, I played around with Midjourney, I played around with Dali too, and this other one, I can't remember the name of it. And one of the things that I kind of found interesting is like with Midjourney, I agree with you that it has this nice, um, you know, painterly feel, and it gives these very, very interesting results, and it feels as if it's very specific to what you said. Like you feel like the more you refine what you're doing, is the closer it gets to what you want. But with DALI 2 now, I find that there are a lot of times the images look like real images and they just smudge the face. And
Yeah,
that has me worried that it's just copying a picture on the internet
yeah,
and just,
yeah,
blurring it
yeah.
to avoid
Yeah, you see
copyright.
the Lensa app where a lot of the portraits you can even see people's signature, just a
Oh, really?
version. Yeah. So,
Yeah,
it's just stealing a portrait and then just,
right.
warping the
Yeah,
face to
like that
match the
feels
person.
unethical. Yeah, like that feels unethical. Like it doesn't feel like the AI is trying hard enough to create something new. It feels like the AI is just looking. It feels like it's doing a Google search, basically.
Yeah, I
You know?
think there needs to be, laws written that regulate it a lot better to prevent that from happening, because a
Yeah,
lot of times when we post work online, there are fine prints there that allows, system like these to use it. It's an algorithm,
yeah,
so they say, hey, it's a search algorithm on Pinterest. This algorithm now develop into into AI
yeah,
generators,
man, yeah, man.
and you put your image on Pinterest and ArtStation and CG Society with the fine print saying, they can basically use this thing in some sort of algorithm, some sort of, software, and they didn't
Yeah.
directly
I
say
mean,
they're going to use it
definitely.
in this particular way.
What I'm
So
kind
the whole thing is very new,
what I'm kind of
and
hoping will happen is because I'm more than likely you're going to have to start paying for AI art. I know with Midjourney they give you a certain amount of generations before you.
they will pay for it. Majority of people use it, pays for
Right.
it.
And and my thing is that I'm wondering if how TV, for example, works, right? If I have a TV show on a network like ABC, I don't know if it's me breaking up or you. Um, Probably me. Is that my internet connection? Everybody can hear me, or am I cut off? Hello, you hear me?
I'm hearing you. I'm not sure about everybody else.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, I was saying like in the TV world, if say for example I wrote an episode for a TV show, or I'm an actor in a TV show and I am allotted what's called points, right? Every time that TV show airs, I get a check, right? So if I was in, I don't know, if I was in a Fresh Prince episode and that Fresh Prince episode airs Thursday night on ABC, then there is a collections agency that will note that it was played, and basically it will collect that money from the TV station and distribute the money to the persons who wrote it, the persons who were acting in certain positions like lead roles, etc. So you find that somebody who acted in something 20 years ago is still getting paid from it. And
Yeah,
I'm there wondering if AI can be set up in such a way where, okay, if it is pulling art from certain people's artwork, can it send checks to them when this artwork is used?
yeah,
I mean, that would be an interesting
yeah.
that would be a very interesting way of it working. you
Mhm.
know I don't
I feel like the developers are really taking advantage of, the gaps when it comes on to image, posting digital stuff online, because it's something that's fairly new in the grand scheme of things, even though, I've been posting digital art for like 15 years.
right.
It's something that is still relatively new, where there isn't a lot of laws, written in terms
Yeah.
of how these things that you post online can be used. So I think there needs to be discussion on that level, on a legislative level, where those things are brought up. And I think with enough people and the people I see online voicing their opinion, I think that eventually it will get there. Like for instance, with the drone, when drone came along, it was chaos for a while. It was chaos for a while, and everybody was like, ban drone. Even one time in Jamaica, they had banned drone completely.
That's true.
Just no drones. You bring in the drone, they even take the remote at customs, so you can't even fly. They said they could use it to open garage doors, all kind of
Oh, really?
stuff, and things kind of smooth out where
That's true.
there were more laws that were written, or guidelines that went all the way back to the drone companies, where they had to build in certain lock and geolocation in the software, and you could submit like Jamaica Airport, JCF, JDF, and then your location would be locked off. I was flying a drone. I lived near the JDF camp, and I was flying a drone. I just went and stopped in the air like this, and they couldn't go any further, just like that, even though I had unlocked it. So,
Yeah.
I think it will eventually get there, because if enough people think a particular way, that will become law, no matter what it is.
Very
No
true.
right and wrong. It's
Very
all
true.
about what must agree to,
So, all right,
you know.
tell me now, all right, how you use AI? Because I mean, I see you using AI in a certain way. Like, talk to people about how you use AI.
Well, I don't believe in using AI art for just generate something and you just post it, or you're selling it as an artwork. I think maybe it's my pride or my pickiness. I wouldn't do something like that. I would want to edit it. I posted a few videos where I was just experimenting with it, where I plugged in my own stuff, art that I've created, to see what it would remix it in. But for instance, how I used it, these two paintings that I have right here was from stuff that I generate, and I tend to take something that I generate and um, edit it in Photoshop, and then run it back through the AI again to see what comes out and stuff like that. So with this, I send a prompt, and now I'm taking that thing that the AI generated that I like, and I might take a few parts and Photoshop it together to create something that I'm satisfied with, and then do a painting of it. So it's something that gets you out of that art block. You want to paint something, you don't know what to paint. You can use it to help inspire you to create something that you can do a painting of, you know, that you can create a 3D character, you know, of fashion design. You know, it's really good when it comes on to mix and match different styles,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
some it's really good with that. And then you can use that to know, you know, as a part of your concept pipeline. That's how I see AI being used, or
Right.
that's how I currently use it as brainstorming.
And interesting you say that because Kadir said in the chats that he sees AI affecting concept art more than anything else. But you're basically saying you use it in your concept art pipeline.
I see it speeding up the concept artist process.
Okay.
Because, you know, I've worked at a concept artist in an animation studio before when I was in South Korea in 2017. You know,
Yeah.
I applied for the concept artist position on a 3D modeling. You know, they thought my 3D modeling wasn't so great. I thought it was the bomb at the time until a year later when I look back, I was like, I wouldn't choose me either. These UV UV things were horrible. UV layout. So anyway, you know, I believe that concept art is to get to the final thing as quick as possible,
Right.
you know. And when I was working as a concept artist, they wanted me to draw a tree and shade it to look cylindrical, or something to look round, or a leaf that. And I was like, that's a waste of time. And I just started 3D modeling the stuff, you know, use ZBrush and Sculptris, and use it as a base sometime to paint over, you know. Um, so I have a better 3D understanding of the final use of this concept,
Yeah.
you know, because often time they would conceptualize something, and then when you start put it in the 3D animation world, it doesn't really work like that. It doesn't have the depth. It doesn't rotate and look good from the other end. So I was doing vehicle design, and I would just block out something quickly in Cinema 4D, and then use that as a base to put details. So anything that you can use to speed up your process
Right. Right.
to the final thing, you know, it will help you as a concept artist. So if you want to brainstorm ideas, I think AI is great for that as a concept artist. But when you start using it, you realize it's giving you a bunch of garbage a lot of the time. That's why I like Mid Journey, because it's an impression. It's an impression. Version 4 gives you realistic stuff, but you can still use version 3, and version 3 gives you just some, you know, blotches of colors. That's an impression that you can now paint over. And I love that for concept art, because you are doing something specific. And I don't know how far away it will be in terms of editing and getting stuff specific, so nobody know what the
Right.
future hold with that. But frankly, I don't see that happening, you know, anytime
So
time soon.
yeah, and I mean it's similar to photo bashing because a lot of times when I'm watching concept art videos to see how people do their concept art, sometimes I see them just go on Google, grab a
Yeah,
picture, and then start painting over.
yeah,
And I'm like, you know, this is kind of similar because if
mm,
when I look on your so I mean you're feeding it stuff that you have drawn,
mm,
and it's basically giving you variations, and then you go on top of it and fix whatever you don't like or you know whatever, and like you say, it's speeding up your process because if you're working in a pipeline and they need something quickly, especially in TV where they need these episodes fast, anything that can save your time, like why bother drawing over a rock texture if you can go and get a rock texture and then you just paint
mm,
over it to get
yeah,
the way you
yeah.
like, you know, similar. So Savage Insight says she's asking. I was watching a video and it said AI can upskill a regular artist and give a great artist superpowers. Do you agree?
Yes, I think so. I definitely definitely think so. And I'm of the school of thought that as an artist, you should be multidisciplinary. You shouldn't just start at Photoshop and end at Procreate. You know, you should try and dabble a bit into 3D art. You should be doing traditional. I believe that you should start from sketching traditional, come all the way up. You know, dabble a bit in animation, animate, you know, your artwork. So I think AI will help you to do more,
Mm.
you know, so you're there, you're starting something from scratch. You know, you use it to, as I said, you can brainstorm idea and get to where you want as an artist
Right.
faster. Sometimes you can even just use the color scheme from it. You know, you have a original artwork and you're like, what am I going to use for the color? It's a sketch. You can even input that sketch. I've done that. I've input pen sketch that I've had into it and tell it the colors that I want for that pen sketch, even though it generates something original.
Right.
I
So
now
basically,
use that color inspiration to finish the
right.
sketch.
So basically, we're talking about using it as a tool, not using it as the end all be all. Because it's
Mhm.
difficult to just take the AI art and put it out there and say, I'm an artist. But if you're
Yeah,
an artist, you're using it to enhance your art or you're using it to get over and creative blocks. You know,
we are in a world right now where I feel like the artists that have the most cinematic production process, they're the ones who's popular. So you could be the best artist because people are like, oh, I'm just a beginner as an artist, and AI can generate this thing that looks realistic.
yeah,
I could never hope to paint
right,
something like that. I'm
right.
10 years away from reaching that level of painting skills. And it's not about that refined look. The people, you know, who I follow on YouTube, like this guy, I can't remember his name, has this weird name like Gox or something like that. And I love his cinematography and his drawings is just like, you know, they look like he's using crayons and markers and stuff
Yeah,
like that. It's very chaotic. And his cinematography is the best. His process, the way he talks to people, the way how he communicates is really good. And that's what it's about in this age.
yeah.
So it's not about people appreciate process. If you watch YouTube and TikTok stuff, you know that people appreciate
That's
process.
true.
So don't worry about that final refined image. Put your process out there on TikTok, on Instagram, learn some cinematography, make it look cool, and AI can't compete with you because people will reach out to you and buy your stuff if they see your
Yeah.
process and love what you're doing and
I was
they love what it's all about.
I was about to say that because something that I was saying to somebody before, and they're wondering if he's even here because I had wanted him to join the chat too. I think more than two people can join a chat, but I'm not seeing him. But basically, I was saying that with AI, well, for one, I see it speeding up a process like what we are saying, and I see it speeding up processes for people like us who want to create stuff. Because one of the things that I always find a challenge is while you are working on, you know, commercial stuff, people hire you to do stuff, it takes away from the time to do your own personal work. You know, you have your ideas that you want to put out there, but then you know that you have to go through the process of, boy, I have to write the script. I
Yeah,
have to storyboard this thing, do the background design, etc., etc., etc. I can see where, you know, if I have a story to create, I could probably use AI to help me generate the storyboard
yeah.
panels, right?
I have ChatGPT that can write stuff. It's crazy. We're in a crazy world.
Mm,
Use AI to write a paper, to write a story to that, and then you work from there. And because it doesn't give you a finished thing.
yeah,
It
yeah,
it, it start to sound like nonsense after a while. So you can take inspiration from a few paragraphs and stuff
right.
like that. But
And
helps you
I,
helps you to brainstorm your writing
and
process.
even beyond writing, here's one of the ways I can see it being used for even book authors, right? Because I know there's some book authors in the chat right now, right? You know, one of the challenges that I find, like when you're doing a book and you look for an illustrator and you say to the illustrator, boy, I need some characters for this book, and they're trying to
Yeah.
describe what look and feel they want, and it's very
Mm,
difficult for them
mm,
to do it. And
yeah.
the only way they can do it is to look on your portfolio, and then if they see something they like, they say yes. If they don't see anything they like, they move to another artist without even finding out if the artist could get, you know, close to what they want. So I'm seeing book authors or publishers being able to use AI to describe what they want, and then basically take that image and say to an artist, I'm looking for something like this, like character,
Yeah.
this kind of style.
Mhm.
And that way it shortens the gap you know, between the artist's understanding and the publisher or the author's description, because then now you can look on, you can see this piece of art that they want and go, okay, I know exactly what you want now. Instead of this back and forth, you know, sketching and sketching and sketching until we come to something, and then maybe you're not even quite, the author isn't even quite happy, but them say, all right, this is good enough. You know, I can see it helping them in that process if they choose to use it that way. I don't really want to see AI art being used to do an entire children's book.
Final thing,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
I
And I
want to,
don't think it can do it effectively
right.
currently
You know,
because you don't have consistent character across
right,
panel and you don't have
right.
it doing exactly what you want. So when a person uses AI to create a book, it breaks at a certain point because people nowadays are hard to please. People watching the Avatar film and people are giving it bad reviews. And I was like, you know, it was a good movie. I usually don't like drawn out movie. I don't like Dune, don't like Blade Runner, the new one, because it's too long. But
Yeah,
then I have bias. I like underwater stuff. I would just watch videos of whales and fish swimming around,
yeah.
you know, so I have a bias. So I was immersed. But for the other people who have short attention span, so you can't use AI to create. You can create
They
something,
like,
but
yeah,
it won't be
Panther then.
because you have to set. You live in a world right now where people break down stories. People know that some things aren't real in terms of, you know, you don't just shoot a car and you just blow up and you know stuff like that. People
Right.
have seen it all, so you have to set yourself apart. So that's what I think will happen. You know, that
Yeah.
we will have the people that they use
And,
AI, and then you'll have the people who use AI, but they are already good. They're already a good writer. They're already a good illustrator, and their work will be set apart.
it,
Their work will look even
because
better.
here's how I look on it, right? I was saying to somebody, say, all right, I enjoy watching robots fight, right? It's very interesting, right? I enjoy watching robots fight. But I don't think I would pay money to go watch robots fight, right?
Yeah,
I would pay money to go watch human beings fight because I want to see the individual artistry. I want to see the
yeah,
creativity they bring to the ring. And it's the same thing with running. If you were
mm,
to tell me, hey, a 100-meter race going to run between some robots,
yeah,
I'd be like, I'll watch it for the spectacle of it, but you're not going to see me going to the stadium watching it. You're not going to see me saying, I can't meet today at 2 o'clock for the 100-meter race going to run. I want to
yeah.
see humans do it because there's something about watching human
Yeah.
performance.
So
And
a
I think it's
friend,
the same with
yeah,
art. Like if
a
somebody
friend
said,
of
hey,
mine said
look
that,
at this,
you know,
if somebody say, hey, look at this AI art, I go, okay, yeah, that looks amazing. But then I'm just going to move past it. And you know,
love
but if somebody go look at this
process.
thing that Kamal just drew, then I'm gonna look at it and go, damn, oh this man so good. Because for me, seeing the work, it says to me that yo, this person put a lot of time and effort into it. With AI, I'm like, yo, some computer chips generated it. It's not hard for them. So it don't have as much value in my opinion, right? And I don't think it
You
ever,
know,
the same way that somebody will look on digital art and they won't spend as much money on digital art as they would with an actual canvas painting. It's similar, right?
sometimes you put a finished artwork out there and people are like, yeah, that's cool, you know, that looks good. And then you realize that this man sat down and screwed in 5,000 screw and then, you know,
Right.
to create a pattern. And you're like, I want to buy that because you just saw the process.
Right.
Well, the process is everything. Trust me, the
Yeah, true.
process is
True. 'Cause
everything.
I saw the table that you make the other day and I was like, boy, I want to buy that table. And I mean, I'm sure I could buy that at similar table somewhere else, but oh, this is some mid journey art.
So this is a book that I'm working on.
Oh, okay.
I have a book about some Rasta fairies, Rasta fairyans, silly, but you know, and I decided to use Midjourney to generate some style sheet, you know, some mood boards, and you know, it helped in terms of the story, in terms of the story structure,
Yeah.
you know, where it start from establishing the world and you know use it to do world building. You get the overall feel of what this
Nice.
thing will look like. You
Yeah.
know, the colors that I will use. This is a fight scene, and you know,
Nice. nice.
This can be used as a final thing. You know, these characters aren't consistent throughout the thing. It's just a mood board for inspiration to now create, you know, the final thing that goes exactly to the story that I want to write. So I want to do this as um a novel with images, limited images.
Mm.
But call
Okay.
it again. It's
So,
not a graphic novel. There's another name for it. I don't remember at the moment.
oh, okay. Yeah, and that's the thing. Some people use it to make comics and all kind of things. I mean, here's my thing, right? The way I see it is that I think, especially for developing countries, I
Mhm,
think we should embrace AI because
mhm,
it helps us to bridge a gap. And what I mean by that is, I was watching a documentary on visual effects industry, and they were talking about how the visual effects tools like Nuke and After Effects and Blender and so on, that has
mhm.
allowed India to catch up to Hollywood,
Yeah.
right? Because whereas Hollywood can fly everybody out to the Netherlands to go shoot this, and then fly everybody out to Iceland and Antarctica to shoot something, they don't have the budget to do that. And
Yeah.
now they can use CGI to do that. And it helps them to create these amazing epics that they
Yeah.
couldn't formally. And I see AI now helping us to do the same thing because there's a certain level of quality that is hard to achieve
Mm,
consistently across the board. If you get 10 animators, you're not going to get 10 animators who are able to draw at the same level or animate at the same level or
mm,
whatever the case is. Especially
yeah.
like say storyboard wise, for example. And
Mhm. Yeah.
you could use the AI to help speed up your
Try
process.
to storyboard. Yes.
Even if we had 10 amazing artists who could all mimic each other's styles, we probably
Mhm,
could find 200. And I mean, a decent sized studio might have 200 employees. We don't have that
mhm.
luxury. So AI could help us to kind of
Could
short.
help you. So you're a 3D art animator and you're not so good at storyboard. AI could help you to generate a
Right,
storyboard and you're working in a studio as a storyboard artist, you will not be replaced by AI because they need you to work at a certain speed, at a certain consistency. You will not be replaced by AI working in a studio.
yeah.
So there's no AI will take your job as a storyboard artist. But for the person who can't afford a storyboard artist because you're busy working for Disney. No, they have an
Right,
alternative.
right. Yeah, man. So I see where
So Blender and Unreal Engine and all those open source, they have democratized that whole idea that you have to pay $3,000 or $4,000 to use Maya and all those software. Now there's Blender just kicking out everybody's teeth. You know,
very
all
true.
the people who didn't have access to Maya and 3ds Max now can learn 3D and show that, hey, I'm good. I just didn't have access to these tools. You
Exactly.
know, because I am of the belief that all those people working in the craft market, carving stuff, doing paintings, that they have the skill where they could be working on the set of a movie.
Yeah, they
You
could.
know, all those people carving something out of wood and selling in the craft market, they could be doing a ZBrush monster that for Lord of the Rings.
Right.
You know, they have that base
And
skills,
then
but there's no
to
avenue
wonder,
here.
you have to wonder if you gave
Yeah. Hmm.
those woodcarvers a 3D printer,
Hmm.
right? And the ability to create their designs in 3D, what would they come up with? You know,
Yeah,
they produce. You
you would have
know,
a few people banning 3D printed work from craft market.
uh, Aaron Cargill says, I heard the limit of AI is that it's limited by what it's given, where artists still have the advantage of being able to experiment and create original styles.
Yeah,
Go that.
it is.
You think?
The design principles that are important. The art is not in your hands. People said, you know, I wish me did have your hands them. It's not. People said, I wish you did have your talent. Art isn't talent and hands. It's skills that you've learned over the years, you know, color theory, shape language, composition, lighting, you know, and all those stuff. How to create depth. You can use color, create depth. You can use composition, create depth. You can use, you know, a lot of different things. Depth of field, create the depth. Have it, you know, some fog and stuff like that. Make the things further away, you know, lighter. And you know, that understanding. That's what where art is.
But you don't think an AI could figure that out based on what it's seen out
It
there?
can, but I don't think it can manipulate it in the nuance that human beings.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the most powerful computer is still up here.
That's
You know, so
and I mean,
to sit down and have a conversation and with somebody and understand all the real world scenarios. You know, AI can't do that.
and 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 you know, interestingly enough, I read an article that an AI expert had. Well, he didn't write it; somebody wrote it, but they interviewed this guy who is heavily involved in AI, and he was saying that he personally doesn't think that AI will take over completely in a creative realm. And the reason why is because while the AI can produce some amazing art right now, it's like Aaron said, it's producing amazing art based on what it sees out there, right? And what he was saying is that human beings go through different experiences that
Mhm.
computer cannot, right? So that person who grew up in poverty, grew up with an abusive father, went to a school where, you know, them see all kind of things happen and blah blah blah, and all of these things influence their choices and their tastes and their
Yeah,
personality and perspective, and that goes into their art. Like when you
yeah,
study art, you might see a piece of art that by itself you go, but this no look good, or what is supposed to be saying. But then when you study the history of it and why the person did the art that way and why the person chose a
yeah,
specific way of depicting the image, you realize that it has certain historical relevance. There's something that was happening at the time
yeah,
they were putting into the art that you can't mimic with AI because everybody's perspective is different. If me,
mhm,
you, and Kadir, for example, go through the same life, right?
mhm.
But we all the way grow up in poverty, all the way have an abusive, drunk father, all of us go to a violent school. All three of us are still going to come out different because our perspective of what is happening is going to be different. You're going to interpret the abuse different from how I interpret the abuse.
Yeah,
You know, you're going to interpret it. You might go to the same school as me and you hate the school and I love the school. I think the school is amazing and fun and you think the school is backward and dirty and whatever. We're coming out with different experiences and
yeah.
I don't think AI
There,
being able to. I,
yeah. There's a school of thought that, you know, the human consciousness is a product of lived experience.
mm,
You know, and like when you watch Westworld, um, the AI, you know, they went through years of the human
right,
experience. That was what allowed them to really and truly be conscious,
right,
you know, because they thought they were conscious, but they were still following a script.
right.
They had to go through all of that, losing a child, losing a loved one, all of that, you know, human experience for them to really and truly be human. So, and until the AI go through all of that,
Yeah,
then you know,
I mean that's the truth. You know, like if for example you could impregnate a woman right now and she give birth in 2 seconds, you wouldn't be attached to that child,
yeah,
right? You have to go through the 9 months and the problems that occur and
yeah,
you know the things to really appreciate the child. And it's the same way you can't appreciate death unless you've spent some time with somebody and
yeah.
really get to feel the importance of that person in your life.
God
You know,
into deep philosophy now.
and it's just one of those things where I mean AI is definitely going to make an impression,
Hmm.
right? And it's definitely going to pose a problem in the short term, but in long term I don't see it posing as much problem as we think. And that's just based on history. The fact that new
Yeah,
technology come about all the time and we
I
think say,
believe
oh,
that it will force us to evolve more as artists, just like how the guy that used to hand paint architectural visualization had to learn some V-Ray. The guy that used to paint movie posters, he had to learn some
right,
Photoshop. the Disney animators who used to draw stuff by hand, they had to learn a bit of 3D animation and stuff like that. They were forced to evolve, and they became better animators. The 2D artists them from Disney that did a hand draw, when they learned to manipulate the 3D characters, their 3D characters were more
Yeah.
lively, were
Yeah.
more because they understand movements on a level that a person who's learning
Yeah.
from 3D
Yeah.
could understand.
You're an architect. Would you argue that, back in the day when you're doing architecture, you draw the blueprint and you're meticulously drawing this blueprint and it have to be accurate, etc. I'm pretty sure when 3D previews came out for architecture, people probably thought, oh Lord, the job gone now. People can just, put up 2 square and try and cube and whatever and create a building, and nobody don't need us anymore. But would you argue that those software probably has created more jobs than removed jobs from architecture? Do you believe that, there's more scope for architecture, architects now with software than when it was just blueprint on a piece of paper?
Yeah, it has speed up the process, because I use a lot of a part of my importance in my firm is that 3D is an integral part of the design process, and it's not just something to show to the client. It is something that we
Right.
use to test the design from the initial stage of it. So it goes through from the beginning. As a matter of fact, I design in 3D. I don't design in plan, and I'm doing architecture. So you find you can get things done a lot quicker, to the point where people expect that in 2 weeks you're gonna have
I mean,
gotten so spoiled.
and I mean, look on it this way, right? Back in the day when people used to have to hand draw these blueprints and,
Yeah.
make a mock-up design of the building out of cartridge paper and paint and whatever, buildings took a lot longer to go up,
Yeah.
right? And
And
we see
it's
that there's a
stiff
huge,
because you don't get to explore.
right? And the thing is that is a huge demand for property. So it's like the faster you can produce these houses, is the more people demand them. And it's the same thing with film and animation. I see that the faster we're able to create these things, is the more people demand them. Because imagine we grew up on one TV station, right? And we thought, wow, we have a lot of content and whatever. And then when cable came out, we're like, wow, even more content. And now we're looking at the fact that we have Netflix, Apple TV, Disney Plus, BET Plus, Peacock, you name it, Amazon Prime. There's so many platforms, and guess what? They're going to need content,
Yeah.
and they need the content fast. So I don't.
Yes.
I see AI really helping to multiply
Mhm.
the jobs, because there's going to be such a huge demand for content, and people putting it out faster and faster and faster as a result, as opposed to, we're sitting down and we're waiting. When is season 3 coming? When is season 3
Yeah.
coming? When is so I mean, maybe I am optimistic or naive, but I
Yeah.
really feel that AI might actually be a good thing
Mhm.
for us, especially as artists, because I was saying to somebody, Jonathan from Crevia, I'm still trying to see if he's here somewhere. Oh, actually, he is here. That, oh crap, I lost my train of thought as I was looking for him. But
Netflix.
I don't remember what I was saying.
Netflix needing things fast, content.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, I see it making things faster. I don't see it really destroying our jobs per se. I think if we think about jobs in the same way we think about it now, then yeah, we're out of work. But if we start thinking from now, how can I use this to speed up my pipeline? Because literally, when the AI started to really generate some amazing piece of art, this is coming off of the heels of when people saying, "Oh, AI can't be creative," and then people see it being creative and they're going, "Whoa, what's going to happen to my job?" But I started saying, AI not going anywhere, because that's just human nature. Once we create something that you know can create something, we're going to keep creating it. So I just started looking and going, what are the processes that I have that I find the most tedious, and one of them was storyboarding. You know, I do like storyboarding when I get into it, but then there are a lot of times when I just don't have the time for it. I'm like, if I could start generating the ideas for the panels right away, especially if I can't afford a storyboard artist, I can get started on the visual part of my story, you know, and shortcut this process that maybe this process of going from script to screen might take me a year. If I can cut out the story, if I can cut down the storyboarding part and I can help cut down the writing part, then maybe it will take me 8 months or maybe it will take me 6 months, and then I'll be closer to putting out something, you know, than before. And we all know as artists, time is money. The more time we can make for ourselves. I mean, imagine even the fact that as an artist, as an animator, you spend the better part of your nights, you know, your day and nights working on animation. You might spend weeks or months working on animation. If you could shorten that amount of time so that you could spend more time with your family, wouldn't you accept those tools?
Yeah,
I feel
that's
like,
you have to be optimistic about anything, about all things in general, because as I said at the start, you know, I asked myself, what if this is the new reality? You know, regardless of the ethical things, and if they ironed out all of that, I believe that this thing is not going away either way.
yeah, yeah. I don't know if Krivia is still here. I was there wanted to join us. But yeah, I agree. I don't think it's going away. But I mean, honestly speaking, I think it enhance us because I saw and I think you were tagged in it. I think I saw your name tagged in it. Um, there was an animation software that somebody found, AI animation software, where basically
Yeah.
you're still animating manually, but
Mm.
AI will take over certain mundane tasks like gravity related tasks. So if you,
Yeah.
for example, make a character jump, it will do the work where when the character lands, it
Yeah, the
bends,
physics.
you know, so that you don't have to do that. And it's not a case of, you know, removing the principles from your hands per se, but it's just a matter of speeding up, because if there are certain tasks that are going to be happening over and over and over, it would be great if the software could handle some of it so you can focus on the main performance rather than the minutia that's going to take
Yeah,
up a whole heap of time, you know. And I mean,
it does, because a lot of people still prefer to animate by hand in
yeah,
terms of
yeah,
the the style that it gives you. It gives you that arcane
yeah, yeah,
video game style versus motion capture tend to be a bit stiff.
right.
You know, I don't like motion capture
Neither me.
animation. Something with a bit more squash and stretch, a bit more, you know, spunk to it. And so you're animating by hand, but then you still need that realistic human physics that's really hard to get. So I think this software is really great with that, in how it combines that AI part of it to just assist you in what you're doing. It's not taking over, it's to enhance, you
Right.
know, your animation skills. So you can focus on the key poses and the gesture in terms of that is used to tell your story. You know, it's almost like with those overlapping movements with the hair. When the dynamic hair came out, it didn't have to be animated each hair
Right.
strand. You
Exactly.
could just the physics dynamics
Yeah.
take over. So it's similar thing where it's using AI neural network to create that physics in a human way, where it would know how far a limb can move and how a human would normally react to certain movements. So that's one good way, and you know, nobody's protesting that
Exactly.
because
That's a good
because of how
point.
it was
That's a
presented.
good point because I recently wrote an article. It's not out yet because it's really for film. There's a film magazine that's coming out next year, and one of the things that I mentioned in it is that we're actually using AI already and we don't know it, because when you use Photoshop and you use content aware
Yeah, it
AI,
does.
you know, when you have that person that photobomb your photo and you just circle them and Photoshop removes them, replaces the background, and you can't even tell where the actual background stop and the AI background begins.
You,
Because
you know how I love those features. You know how long it used to take me to sit down and cut out people in Photoshop. I used to work in a photo studio right after high school. Yeah, I used to do a lot of things. That was
yeah,
2004, and Photoshop was a new thing, and I used to have to sit down and do a lot of
yeah,
cutting out, and I am a master at clone stamp and those things, and cutting up pieces and fitting it back together, and it's so easy now to use content aware fill. You can use it in your 3D work. If you produce a 3D rendering, you can use it to edit stuff like that, so you don't have to go back to the 3D software and re-render stuff, and in the
and
way how it works, it doesn't seem as imposing as the current
right. No,
AI generators.
but even just looking at it as a minor example,
Mm,
it saves us a lot
mm,
of time because again, an example in film. Say you shoot
yeah,
something, and this happens all the time, right? You shoot something, a commercial for a client, and the client is even there on set with you, and they're
yeah,
seeing it, right? And make this big deal where we always try to give the client the biggest screen possible,
mhm,
so spot flaws. But even
mhm,
then, because you're on the set all day and people get tired, they don't necessarily spot everything. And then it's when you get back into the editing room, they go, "Oh, I don't
yeah,
like orange garbage, this orange rubbish bin in the background, you know.
yeah,
Our colors are blue. I don't want anything orange in the screen because that's our competitors' colors." And you look now when you're going, yo, we have to go reshoot this thing just because I want like a garbage bin. And the fact that content aware exists even in video where you can say, all right,
yeah.
so circle this thing and then make the software track it and remove it from
And that's all
that
AI.
saves you money.
Yeah,
You know,
it's a human thing, where when you feel like your livelihood, your career is being replaced by something, that you're gonna get upset. It's something that has been happening from way back when. I read this story one time years ago before this whole AI thing about the people that used to place bowling pins in. There was this big protest because they lost their job to automation, where this machine just place back the bowling pins and go back up. And there was this big protest where people were protesting that they lost their job because they used to be the one that go around and replace all the bowling pins after somebody has bowled, and that was a bit slow. And like, why would I want to be what's your job, sir? What's your career? I'm a placer of bowling pins. I mean,
yeah,
some things get phased out all the while. In 20 years from now, nobody would want to say, I'm a concept artist that sit down and have to get this concept out. No, you want to say, I'm an art director.
right, right.
You
Oh,
direct the concept art.
no,
So,
you're
so it's gonna sound silly
yeah,
20 years from now. You say, oh, I'm a concept artist. I sit down and spend an entire day painting this landscape for concept work, just for the director to come and say, you know what, I don't like the concept. I don't like I don't want a forest. I want a desert instead.
well,
And you have to redo that concept art.
no, but you are. The thing is, a lot of times as a concept artist, your art is just used as inspiration. You'll never see
Yeah.
art in the actual piece. They just look on the art and go, okay,
I've been in that situation before where I spent an entire week of work working in an animation studio, and all my concept work thrown out the door
right. I see
because
the inside says there's no point in crying.
it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. I didn't do anything that was bad and stuff. They just like, what, we change our mind. We're going to do something different. We're just brainstorming. We're just seeing, we wanted these 10 things to see which
The truth
one
of the
better, and
matter,
you throw away 9
the
of
truth
it.
of the matter,
So
every job in the world, every job in the world is created because something is missing, right? And what I mean by that is somebody tills the soil because we need to plant seeds, right?
yeah,
We want, right? If you could literally just water the ground and food grow, you would
yeah,
do that, right? You only till the soil simply because you need food to grow, right? Somebody collects the garbage because garbage is piling up. If garbage could disintegrate itself, I'm sure we wouldn't have garbage men, right? And like you said, do you want to go around and do you want to go on a date with a girl and say I'm a garbage man? No disrespect to garbage man, but is that what you would want to say? Right?
Yeah, like in America, like some people prefer to tell you that they drive the truck. They don't want to tell her that they're the one who they're like, no man, I drive the truck. I'm not the one who collect it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in 20 years from now, nobody will want these jobs that you're doing, and you have to level up. I say to a few people that start looking for a career in programming. So kids tend to go into college, go into high school. They have careers day, and they look at the most viable career. So this is impacting us now, but in 10 years, 20-year time, if someone they leave in high school, take a look and they realize that there's no job as an artist, then they'll have a career in programming something else.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's not like they'll have to be worrying about AI taking their jobs. They're just looking to have a job now. So it's the people who are in this now, especially you're in the peak of your career, you'll feel a bit threatened, and the people who are just starting out, they're the one who feels more threatened by AI.
I want to highlight something that Frederick Lynn said before. I make John talk. He says every artist has their starting point, and AI art should be used as a starting point. I have had sequences omitted 2 weeks before delivery, right? And that goes back to what we're saying. Like, can you imagine as a concept artist, you spend all this time working on this art, only for them we're scrapping that scene completely. We don't need a swamp scene anymore, and you spend so much time on this thing. Like that must hurt. I said, dude, I have been saying that for a long time. Scripting is just great.
Yeah, man. I taught myself Python so I could streamline some processes in Cinema 4D. Like I get stuff over from Rivet, and it labels stuff like glaze, walls and so forth. I created a script that can find all these things and put them into a group, or all the things that are within a certain group. It just collapse everything and it just run. The first time I did it, the computer was just running. And a friend of mine was a programmer, said, you just created a virus. Because the computer stuck. And I went through, I Googled stuff because I was just learning a bit of programming, and I got some help to fix it. And when it was fixed, and I wrote 90% of it, and somebody did the final touch. It was like the great, and I just pressed one button. It was just one button, and it just went like, and then it was finished. And that would have taken me an hour to do, and it was done in 10, 15 seconds.
Right. John, what's going on?
All right, so Kevin is trying to start a fire, right? He's trying to instigate problems, but we're not having it. So you said something earlier in regards to how you would use AI art. Yeah. So personally, I don't have any fine art skills. So when it comes to sculpting or making, carving, stuff like that, I'm good like that. But I can't draw, like never could. I practice everything, I just can't. If I use AI and make images, can't I call that my art?
Well, I mean, put it this way. I would say you could call it your art if you do a Google search on that art and you can't find anything similar out there. But I feel like what I was saying, what I was saying with DALL-E 2, right, is that I remember we're not saying you can't, I remember Kamal says an ethical problem. An ethical problem, okay. A legal problem, right? And my thing is that, like with DALL-E 2, I saw some images where when I see the images generated, I was like, yo, I'm pretty sure if I put this in Google search, somebody going to come up, because this don't look like art. For example, I put in...
call it yours because it doesn't exist out there. You have it. You have it. It doesn't exist anywhere out there. You could put this out there, and if the hands are fine, where it doesn't have 7 fingers, nobody would know that it's AI art. And you could tell them that you did it.
All right. So I have been use it at different platforms. So I use the OpenAI to do the words. So as you said, especially with the chat, after a time, it does get more confusing. But I just go and share some stuff that I did with AI. So I did this. I
No
don't
one could
see
know that that was AI. No one could know.
how could you, like, if you're looking at it, if you, I didn't do this, but I saw it and I can give credit. I just have to look for the guy name who did this one. But this castle, because I'm working on something and I wanted references for a castle. Here's a castle. Um, Here's a farm scene. These are all AI generated. I was looking for a template to use in Photoshop, and I made this template, and I'm just going to use this template as it. Everything that you're seeing here is mid-journey, but there's also the different ones and so forth. So looking at this now, this could be, you put the font to put the name and so forth, but this could be a book cover, and is AI do this? I can draw, and I made this.
Yeah,
I can call this my art.
Yeah, like a few places are banning AI, banning the use of AI and so forth. But then you could produce something that if you don't state that it's AI,
Right.
nobody would know. So do you now have the AI police where you have to investigate? Somebody goes into an art competition, investigate how this was done to see if AI was used somewhere in the process, because I take AI and even if the hands are bad, I can fix it in a few minutes. I can enhance it. I can put few images together. I've done AI work where I've generated the background, then I've generated the foreground, I've generated the middle ground, and then cut it together to create an artwork. So it's something that cannot be policed, like a lot of artists and advocate is like pushing this thing that everybody should have that internal ethical principle to say no to this thing because it's unethical. But what are you going to do with people that are using it? People are just shouting on other people's posts. No AI art, like that doesn't go anywhere. That doesn't go anywhere because the person is not doing anything illegal. If you don't like AI art, you don't like it. I understand, but this thing where each side I think want to bully the other doesn't really make any sense. And the people who are against AI art would swear that they are the superheroes, and the people who are using AI are the villains, and that's not the case. It's not either or.
To tie into something that you were discussing earlier, and Kevin had said as well, but it's the natural progression that we normally see. As you said, when Disney 2D animation department heard that they had to start using computers, they were very, very much against it. But again, it's just the advancement of technology. It's a tool that for persons who do understand art and can manipulate and make things better, you have a better jumping ground to start from. Somebody wants to describe something and they can't describe it. So you get the keywords to say, okay, so describe, give me some pointers. You use the pointers, get the concept art, and then you can go forward and refine it into something that is better. But it's just challenging to persons who can create art, that persons who can create art now has this tool, that, as they say, render them useless, so to speak. I don't believe that, because you can't replace the years of experience of a true artist, but they see it as that.
Yes, and with that, we have to reassure people. With that, we have to reassure people of this because, it's my artist friends that, think a certain way. And a few of them has come down on me like, yo, you can't do this, you can't do that. I almost didn't post my video. And I have another video that I should have posted from a week ago. And I'm like, should I post this because I'm just doubling down on the use of AI? People start burning me out. But then we have to, do our research and reframe the narrative. And a lot of time people just need reassurance to tell them that everything will be okay. Don't worry.
Yep. I think this is a tool for the better because again, it won't replace the fine-tuned end result work. That detail that you sit and put in as an artist. So, but when it comes to imagining new concept, because I'm in different groups, I am very much for it because again, I can't draw. So this is like the only thing that I have to do unless I want to depend on somebody. And I look at the things that people create and I was like, if this wasn't here, that wouldn't be possible for me. So I'm very much for it.
Yeah,
And it, yeah,
I don't like doing portraits. I don't like doing portraits. So I'm not have a bad mind somebody I'm saying I'm gonna put up them lens at portrait because if you
right,
link me and say, hey, I want a portrait, I don't have time to do
Yeah,
portrait.
right.
I don't.
Let
I don't.
everybody use Lensa up and print them portrait and put it up in a them house. I applaud them. More power to them.
I don't like
You know?
doing caricatures, and I mean there are apps online that will take a face and turn it into a caricature. You know, so I mean they can save yourself time. I mean at the end of the day, and there are some points I wanted to highlight that Kadir and Frederick Lynn were making. Right, so Kadir was saying to one of Jonathan's earlier points that you know the AI is generating art from somewhere. It's taking people work and generating the art for you. And are you paying for those images? Frederick's point of view is that, boy, you know, the truth of the matter is that people vex because it's taking away the time and effort, you know, that's not there anymore. And he was furthermore saying that it's just a tool, you know, which is basically what we're alluding to. Kadir, now, in terms of the point that Kamal is making about regulation, ArtStation has taken measures now to address usage of AI art. It doesn't want any AI art on its platform. And to be honest, let me tell you, my point of view is simple. If I generate art with AI, I'm not going to post it and say I did this, right? I'm going to post and say, hey, I generated this from AI. However, will I use AI in my work? I most likely will, because if I am drawing, say for example, I want to focus on the animation of the characters, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in some cases, I want to focus on the character design because that's what I like to focus on. But the background art is something that, boy, as much as I can do it, I do find that it takes a lot out of me and I'd rather not do it. If I could generate the backgrounds and the background stuff like the story I want, I will use it.
Yeah, yeah,
Very good use case.
I
yeah,
did art, but I will use it because it's helping me to
That's
tell
one
the
of the
story.
best use case you've just highlighted.
yeah.
Generate background. Because while your characters have to be consistent. And as a matter of fact, you can plug in your background style.
Right.
You plug in your background style and train like a stable diffusion, and now you can generate different scenes that doesn't have to be something specific, you know, and say you generate a background with some trees and you want a rock, you can generate that rock, then you can cut out the rock, put the character hiding behind it. You know, it speeds up your workflow so much. You can even use those background for 3D because the one of the videos I want to do is to show how you can generate a 2D image with AI and then cut out the different parts, and offset it in 3D space and use that for a background. It can be used for infographics,
And
you know, it can be used for an animation.
yeah, and I think they did that in the first season of Dragon Prince, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to double check. And there's another guy, I don't remember his name, but there's a guy that I found on YouTube. The man made a 3D movie by himself, just combining, you know, 2D art that he did in Photoshop and, you know, doing that same thing you're talking about, separating them in 3D space.
Give it some depth of field.
What's that?
Yeah, the depth of field. But what Kevin is saying is kind of what they did in Arcane. They did the stills for the background, and then they had somebody else come in and do the 2D and 3D stuff on top of that. So you make some watercolor backgrounds, and then you just focus on the animating part on top of that. As you said, just like that. Your workflow.
That's a very good use case, man. Trust me, this thing will help to speed up and get things done.
Right.
Yeah, and you don't have to be using any artist name. You can train it with your work, and things. So a lot of these conversation needs to happen so that people see that AI in itself isn't a bad thing. You know, you can say, hey, I'm using AI, but I'm not using anybody else's work. I plugged in. So process is everything, and you show your process because nothing is bad with this with this tool, you know, is the whole idea that, you know, people are saying their art is being stolen. I think that is a major thing
Yeah,
that everybody is talking about. And the funny thing about it, you know, all those artists who says their work is being stolen, they are not losing any money. They're not losing a dollar, not a single dollar. Just like when people bootleg movies, is the people who can afford to go to theaters. So the theaters aren't gaining and losing a dollar by people bootleg. As a matter of fact, because people started bootlegging movies more people started going to the theater because now
yeah.
movie is a thing.
No,
Movie is a thing. It became a culture.
I'm glad you.
Watching movies became a culture, you know, and so the next time you might bootleg Spider-Man 1, but you say, no man, I have to watch Spider-Man 2 in a
No,
theaters. You know,
and let me tell you,
for the money.
so let me tell you why I support that point. I support that point on two levels, right? And this is before I get to Savage and Lynn's point. So there's a movie called Sosi, right?
Yeah.
It is the first African movie. It's from South Africa. I think it's the first African movie to make. I think it was over $1 million or something like that. And how it was done was that, you know, in Africa, bootlegging did go on well hard, right? And what the guy who made the movie did was he realized that, boy, people bootlegging the movie, you know. So him start bootleg the movie too. Him start going to the street and sell CDs from the back of his car. And that's how he made the money. And the truth of the matter is, like, when I visit my uncle in St. Mary, the man has stacks of DVDs of these African movies. And what it has done is it has made the African movies popular. So now when
Yeah.
people are on Netflix and they say African movies, they're drawn to the African movies because it's something that they've now become accustomed to, which
Yeah.
if they were never exposed to African movies, they would never pay for it.
They
Right?
wouldn't. I
But
didn't know the name Greg Wachowski until this whole AI dilemma. And it's a name that kept on coming up because I think he was one of the first person to come out against it as a popular artist. And I was like, okay, who's this guy? I Googled him. I didn't know about him.
Yeah. I know, and trust me, there have been movies that I've watched bootleg and I say, yo, I'm gonna have to go see a theater and watch this. Because you know that it looks better in the theater, so you say, I'm gonna have to go theater and watch this. But to the point that Savage Inside is making, she says, this all sounds fascinating, but does it make animation coming from Jamaica more feasible? And I would say yes. It definitely makes it more feasible. I don't know if you're here for the earlier point that we're making, but we're saying that we believe it's a good equalizer because, for example, it's a known fact that The Simpsons back in the day, I don't know if it still takes that long now, but Simpsons used to take 8 months to do one episode, right? With like 200 employees. I don't know if they're all animators, but you're gonna have your animators, background artists, character designers, storyboard artists, whatever. And if you were to try to do that in Jamaica, you probably don't have enough hands, you probably don't have enough time, you probably don't have enough money. Now, if you wanted to release an adult comedy and pitch this adult comedy, whatever the case is, if you could shortcut the time in the storyboarding and shortcut the time in the scripts and shortcut the time for as many things as you could shortcut the time for with AI and just get straight to the animation, wouldn't you do it? And in fact, you can use AI for animation now in both 2D and 3D to take care of mundane things like walk cycles and, you know, taking a seat and whatever to help cut down the time. So that way now you can use less employees to get more done, and you could make a very lean animation team and get the same thing done and actually compete, you know, with a Fox. Otherwise, you couldn't compete with Fox because Fox can put out Family Guy much faster than you can. In fact, just to show you, when Fox canceled Family Guy back in the day and Family Guy went to Cartoon Network, it took Cartoon Network, Adult Swim, 1 year to release one episode. Like literally, they were only releasing an episode a year because they couldn't afford to do it any faster, right? They couldn't afford to do it any faster, and it was because Cartoon Network kept it alive, and the fan base grew. Fox took it back, and we get more regular episodes now, right? So Jamaica can't work with that. If we were putting out an episode a year, we'd be dead in the water. Every investor would be like, this don't make sense. But if AI can shortcut the time like I had said earlier, if I can take care of the backgrounds with AI and maybe just paint over them like what Frederick Lynn is saying, I shortcut my time. Yo, a good background can take you like 2-3 weeks, for one background, right? Maybe even more if you're being really picky. And you can imagine if you have 20 backgrounds in an episode, 20 times 3 weeks, how long is that? Enough weeks that, right? Just for the backgrounds alone. So if I can,
Nobody wants to sit down and do all of that.
yeah, if I can put that down, I can put out an animation much faster, right? And I mean, I'm not trying to take away job from a background artist. In fact, I may still hire a background artist, but his job might be now to take the AI art and paint over it and make sure the style is consistent and address the issues here and there. And the fact is, him can get through more work in less time, and we can put out more episodes and make money. Because if I take a year to put out one episode, guess what? I can't afford to keep that background artist for more than 4 weeks. But if I can put out 20 episodes a year and actually start making money, I can keep that background artist.
Yeah.
I can keep.
Yeah. So with us as designers, I would say, rather than artists, or what we do call us, because like we're doing something that's a part of a broader industry, and stuff. We're not doing stuff to hang on a wall. So you'll find people in the animation, movie, and book and that kind of discipline embracing AI more, and you'll find the people who are just artists, against it a bit more. The people who are more thinking on a utility level will embrace it. So that's where I think the line will be split down in the middle. Kadir said commercial artists. Maybe we could actually answer some of the questions that some of the people are asking. I don't know if they're asking questions.
I mean, the last question I saw was the one that we were talking about, where Savage was asking, how will it help us with animation if it don't help us speak that. Lynn is more making comments like every film we mix 3D and 2D for the background and then some paint over it. You were saying that we should use AI for the backgrounds and focus on the animation of the characters. And
in terms of
saying,
go ahead.
Wait, go again. What you said?
No, so I was saying in terms of the question as if it will make the art coming from out here better. I said I think yes, because just as Kamal had said earlier in regards to more software being open source, where Blender, you have a lot more access to do a lot more now and it's free. The fact that you have this tool and it's readily available, you start further ahead. So the concept work that you start with and that everybody has, that the starting point that everybody is working from is better. I see where there is going to be an improvement in the overall quality.
Yeah.
So just as Jake was saying that you use it in the concept phase. So imagine when you're doing your research of what the backgrounds and what the scenes and the colors and everything should be, the entire team comes together and you make the images outlining all of what everything should look like. And then from there, just the level at which you're looking to work at changes. So it's no longer, as simple, and everybody has that milestone or that point where they say, okay, then this is what it should look like. So in terms of workflow, it's going to be faster because, again, you have these things to generate images for you. And it's further along the point, and it's a more refined look because you can add styles. You can add, if you want it to look like manhwa, if you want it to look like Japanese, something, depending upon what you want it to look like. I don't know why the words are leaving me. Earlier, I put in Cursigat. I don't know if you know that YouTube channel. I put in Cursigat styled illustration, and it gave me a style like that. So you can choose the style that you're looking for, the color scheme that you're looking for, and it gives you that point to move from. So I think it will benefit the artists out here.
And I mean, it can also benefit artists from the standpoint of you have AI that can animate still art. And as we know with Instagram is favoring video more. And the truth of the matter is, it's unfair to ask an artist to do animation. You know, if the artist don't want to do animation and you're forcing them to do animation to get seen, you know. So if they can plug their art into something and get some animation out of it, so they can put a video on Instagram to get more views, you know.
That's where it's heading.
Huh?
That's definitely where it's heading. I see where Blender incorporating stable diffusion to generate textures on even rudimentary 3D models right now, you know.
Somebody was asking about IP. Now, the fact that it uses other people's art to generate your art, I am learning about that, so I'm going to look more into it. But and this is not backed by any legal standing. This is just my personal opinion. I think that after you're done, it's yours because it was not into existence until you put together the prompts to make it. So when you get it, you know, the refinement process that you go through, you know, when you go upscale and you make the variations and you make the variation until you finally get it. That end result, this was, go ahead.
Come on, finish what you were saying.
Yeah, man. I'm saying the end result is unique to you, so you can copyright that one that you have made because you made it, so it should be yours to copyright.
So it's a unique thing and nobody else has it. You know, that's what we're saying. I was saying earlier also that it's a ethical, it's a personal ethical thing. It's not even established. It's not even a formal ethical dilemma. It's something that's just come about, and it's not even a legal issue as yet. So the whole idea of IP and copyright, it's like a personal ethical thing that a few artists is now coming together and trying to basically prove that it falls in the line of illegality, you know, which that is still a debate that hasn't panned out to anything. So what is happening online is that because they aren't able to prove the illegality of it, you know, there's this now culture war of ethics that's going on, which gets nowhere. You know, I think it's a worthy thing to look into to see if there are any breaches in terms of legality. I think it's something that should be looked into. But until then, you know, I don't think people should be bullying people that are using AI art to say, don't use AI art, you know, unless it reach that point where we say, hey, this thing is now illegal, then, you know,
yeah, I mean,
or this clearly unethical.
What is going to happen is this, right? It's going to be an interesting battle because on one hand, you know, the argument is going to be, hey, this is pulling from other people's work. But then on the other hand, the law allows you to use somebody else's work as long as you significantly change it, right? There's always been this weird line, this gray area where people say, what is significantly changing something, right? How do you really say something is significantly changed? And I feel like that's where the battle is going to be fought. Because
one of the other things that's happening is that it's really difficult to prove that they have used your image. Like, for instance, you might do something that looks like a Loish or a Greg Wachowski, but then you can't really prove that they have your image inside their algorithm. And that's one of the dilemmas right now. You know, how do you break apart? How does artists come together to take these guys to courts, to scrutinize their software, to break it apart, to see if these images are inside the algorithm and prove that they have stolen it based on how they're using it. You know, that thing goes so deep. I don't even know how that begin to the process of doing that, how that would start.
All right. So somebody just asked, what about if you use Mickey Mouse and you did something with Mickey Mouse from it? So if it's a character that's already been copyrighted and they have the person who owns the copyright, if they can differentiate that it's their character, they can stop you from using it. So just as One Piece or Naruto or Disney can say, okay then, this is our character. We can see our character there. You can't make merchandise from it. They can stop it. But as Kevin said, what makes a differentiated change? Some people say they change one color. And because they changed the one color, it's now their thing because they made some change to the art itself. But once the features that make the mark identifiable is still there, then that is where I think you have those legal grounds to stand on like, no, 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 no. This is my character and you made changes to it. But the entire fan art industry out of animation is based on taking the character and doing something to it. So this is not something that, this is not something that is brand new. This is something that people have been doing from a long time. It really depends on how far you
have a problem with AI. I see quite a few people that have a problem with AI, and I've seen them do a ton of fan art in the past. You know, I've seen some of them even sell work.
Yeah.
Well,
by right. So, by right.
I've gone to some.
Go ahead, Kevin.
And see people selling fan art, and I'm thinking, interesting. But Kadir is asking, is fan art copyrightable? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I don't think so.
It depends on how unique it is to you. So, depending, copyright law, and again, people, I am not a lawyer, consult a lawyer about copyright law and so forth. But if the mark is original to you, meaning, and they said what makes something original, but if the way you created it is unique, so it was not in existence until you did it, then, and you can prove that you can show how you got to the artwork itself, you can copyright it, and then you know that you have the copyright. And it's when somebody recreates your thing that they breach your copyright.
Who copyrighted first?
All right, may I
repeat?
The question?
It's not even about who created, it's about who copyrighted first.
That is true as well. So if it's just out there in the world, just roaming, and you just left it careless, anybody can go and copyright it, and it's now technically that person's. So that is true as well.
I'm glad you brought that up because Jan actually wants to do a copywriting workshop. It's one of the things we talk about. I'm actually doing some research right now to see how many artists and how many animators are actually copyrighted. You know, you have that legal obligation to say, hey, you're using my work, I'd like some money. But if you haven't registered that art, you've now made that harder on yourself. In Jamaica, it's not a bigger problem because with Jamaica, they will look at the fact that you created it first, right? You have to prove you created it first. So the burden is on you to show them the concept art and blah, blah, blah. But in America prefers that you register it. If you don't have it registered, you have a warm time to try and prove it. You know,
so Kadir, sorry, Kevin. So Kadir said once you create the work, the copyright is yours, and it's just not so.
No,
so,
that is true. That is true. That is true.
No, wait. So just as he said that there's work that somebody can steal, if you made something 5-10 years ago and you just have it, and I go and I take it and I go copyright it, it's mine. So how it works, you can do a poor man's copyright where you send it to yourself in the mail or you email a version of itself and that proves ownership. But once you just have it,
black and white.
Let me correct you there. No, let me correct you there. So in Jamaican law and UK law, I do believe they might be changing it in UK law, but in Jamaican law and UK law, once you've created it, the copyright is yours. That is irrefutable, right? The challenge is that if somebody steals your work and you file a claim that they've stolen your work and that person registered the work before you, you now have the burden to prove that you are the one who created it, which means that you're going to have to show original artwork, sketches to show that you developed your way to this. If that person can't do that, then you might win that case, which is why you should never really show people or give people access to your process. But you see, in America now, they don't accept poor man's copyright in America at all, right? They don't do that no more. And then secondly, America tends to favor who registered first. Not saying you can't prove otherwise, but America strongly tends to towards who registered it first. You say you
One
want
of
to say something?
my favorite episode of She-Hulk was the whole copyright dilemma where Titania or whatever her name was copyright She-Hulk because it wasn't copywritten, and the friend was saying, how could you not copyright your name, and then she was saying that she didn't want the name, she don't like the name, and that was used against her. She's saying that like this name, the whole court thing was funny because it's never black and white, and it's something that has to go to the court, debated, and prove your case.
Yeah. The point is, it is best you register it because it just makes your life easier.
Easier.
It does make your life easier because
the thing is go to court.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, if you don't register it, you now have to go and figure out how to prove that you are the original creator of this work. And it is very hard to do that, right? Yeah. Because suppose you were sketching this character and you were sending it. Say, for example, I'm sketching a character, right? And let's say the character name Ricky Rat. And I'm sending Ricky Rat sketches to Jonathan. And Jonathan said, yeah, man, this look good. Yeah, man, this look good. And Jonathan said, no, man, I copyright this, And him go and him register it. Now, if I go and say, no, it's me created first, and then I go to the court and I show them the sketches, but I also sent the sketches to Jonathan, so Jonathan can show them the sketches too. They're going to give it to Jonathan, right?
But there's a little thing in there, so because, and I worked with artists, if I was giving you input while you were creating the art, I'm also a co-creator. Because yes, you are the hands, but as he said, it's not just the hands. It's the mental, it's the how you look at it, it's how you do it. So I can argue that, hey, I was giving this person the idea and it's through my direction that this mark was created. So it is my mark to go and register. So it is something that it's it is something that is tricky.
I will correct it.
And
if a lawyer is in here, they can jump in. So one of the things about Jamaican law, which is why Jamaica has a beautiful copyright law at this point in time. If I do work for a company, if I do artwork for a company, right, the copyright still belongs to me, right? Unless I actually sign it away in contract.
Right.
And even if I sign it away in contract, I still own the moral rights to my work. And what moral rights means is that if I do work for a company and they say, look, I own this thing now, what all that means, when you sign your copyright over to them, all it means is that them alone can earn money from the work, right? That's what signing over means. However, by Jamaican law, if you say to them, you have to tell people that I did the work. The company has to tell people that you did the work. They can't remove that right from you. Right? And in fact, the moral right also gives you the ability to say, for example, you do a piece of artwork for a gas station, and the gas station decides, say, oh, I want to display this work in a go-go club. But your religious beliefs prevent you from, having your artwork there. You can say, listen, I don't want my artwork in a go-go club. And you can take them to court over that because you still own the moral right to your work. That's something that Jamaica say you can't give up. I don't think it exists in other countries, but in Jamaica that exists. You own that moral right. Nobody's supposed to say to you, don't put that piece of work in your portfolio because you did the work for me, the work is mine. Right? No, you have the right to say that this is my work. And if you want to, you can insist that the person who using the work tell people when asked that this work belongs to Jonathan. Right? And this is just Jamaican law. I don't know if it exists in the US or whatever, but I know for sure I've heard it many times from an IP lawyer here that it's very difficult to remove moral rights from something that you've created.
Okay. And to tie it back to AI though, with art, as we said, a lot of persons, they're very fond of the traditions. So if we take it a little step back, when persons were really getting into graphic design and certain types of illustration, they claimed that wasn't art. So when you started to use the digital paint and all the persons who are heavy fine arts, they were like, that's not art. And now you as an AI artist, and I don't know if you guys know the book Steal Like an Artist, But you know, as
Heard of
you
it.
can claim, huh?
Heard of it, but I don't know it.
Basically, if you use somebody thing, make sure say you give them credit and just go on through with love because there's no new ideas under the sun. So use, but always give credit. Always, wherever you get it from, give credit.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
And feel like an artist is called. But you know you are not proficient with drawing and you're going to go to AI for the option of creating your work. These things, yes, the source is coming from all over, but that final, as we're talking about the process of getting to the final piece, you created it. So by very right, as soon as it's done, you can go out and you can copyright
I
it.
mean, put it
And
this way.
nobody can be like,
Well, put it this way. I don't think you can. Well, I'm speaking out of ignorance, but I don't think you can copyright the artwork. But what I think you can do is you can copyright the product. So, say for example, you use. Wait for this pause. So, say you use AI to make a comic, or you use AI to create a children's book. I believe you can copyright the children's book, right?
Yeah.
I don't think you can copyright the individual artwork itself, but you can copyright the children's book, which is a product. So nobody can distribute that book except you, but they probably can use the images from it, use an image
right.
and display it around and whatever. But that, again,
Mhm.
I'm speaking from ignorance, and AI, since
No,
AI
man,
is
you're
new
right,
and there are no
man.
laws yet,
Um,
who knows?
no, you're right because, for example, Winnie the Pooh, Disney had the copyright, the IP for Winnie the Pooh, and that just expired the other day. So if you think about it, all of the merchandise and everything will happen with Winnie the Pooh from it creating in the 1920s. That just free up to, or is it the public domain? It just free up a while ago. So it is a case where if you can see the source work in there, there is a case, but if it's unique to you, there's no argument. So if I can look at it and say, yeah, man, this is definitely something what Kevin did draw, him do something too, you can say you have an argument, but I don't think if I go through the process of creating something very unique with AI, that anybody else have any claim to it, it's unique to
So,
me.
so Jojo is saying, wasn't an AI comic book blocked from being copyrighted because it lacked human input? Well, I'm not aware of that case. I'll definitely go look that up.
I got you. That sounds
Yeah,
interesting.
that sounds very interesting. Boy, looking at this AI thing, as we said, it's here to stay. I don't see it going anywhere. I see it becoming normal. In fact, I think that our generation is bothered by it the most. I believe that 20 years from now, 30 years from now,
It
it
will
will
be.
be it will be so normal that kids expect AI, right?
Right.
In fact, if you're not using AI, it's going to be like, why are you doing it the hard way? You know.
Right.
But hey, who knows what the future holds? Maybe we'll all be beggars on the side of the road saying, "I used to be an animator," or my personal belief is that this world will turn out like the movie Wall-E, and all of us will be sitting in pods watching our favorite TV shows, getting fat, while AI does everything for us and keep us comfortable. Who knows?
I don't think I don't so there's a human element to it that I don't think will be replaced. I think the opposite of what everybody thinks where it's going to replace artists, I think the opposite of it is going to come through where persons who do the drawing with their hands, you will be more valuable because not just the hands, but there's certain in regards to the comic book lacking a human aspect, there are certain emotions and feelings and things that come out when it's done. And because of this AI generated, there's going to not be a soul, so to speak. Not there's not going to be emotions. But the persons who do have that skill set, they will be rare and they will be valuable because the person who can actually storyboard, as them said, there's a timeline and mandate that studio head needs to meet. So they're going to need the actual storyboard artist to come in and do it.
Yeah.
And that can't be replaced with the AI. So I think it's going to make the industry bigger and make persons who can create art more valuable.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Before I make Kamal have the final point, I just want to highlight something that Jojo said. She says, "I hope it comes and goes like NFTs because some people are really horrendous. I believe in some ethical practices, but there is a significant rise in people with malicious intent. That's my problem." Somebody else says, "AI art is the child of the NFT algorithms," and I agree with Kadir on that because I know some people in Jamaica who then jumping on this NFT bandwagon because they see it as a quick millionaire thing. And the amount of art that they want to generate for NFTs, right? I see them going to AI because them realize, say, look, I need to make a quick buck, and no artist alive can produce this artwork and variation as fast as I want it. So I am going to just generate 1,000 monkeys with a spoon, you know, in different variations so that I can fill up this NFT world. But the truth of the matter is, in my opinion, all of those people who chasing this NFT bubble, one, they're using NFTs wrong. Right? I don't think NFTs are going to disappear, but I think the NFT art foolishness is going to disappear because that is a fad, right? A lot of them art don't look good anyway, and it's like I wouldn't spend my money on that. It don't make no sense. NFT is something that is like NFTs is almost like the rights to an experience. You can turn a book into an NFT. You can turn a course into an NFT. You can turn an experience into an NFT. You could say, Kamal could say, hey, I'm selling an NFT, and what this NFT allows you to do is, for the next 2 years, you can link me anytime for free courses.
Utility.
Right. And that will hold more value than some monkeys doing foolishness, right? These collector's items. So that NFT art bubble going pop, like, if it don't pop already. I think that is just a fad.
Yeah. All right, so to close out, all right, so to jump off from what you were saying, you know, the utility has to come out. So if there's no utility in creating just this random thing that you post on Instagram or elsewhere, it will be a fad that just get oversaturated till people get tired of it, and then it will just go away. But the people who understand the utility behind it, that use it to create something else, to do something else that has more use, that's going to an end goal, a larger, grander scheme of things, they're the one who will come out using AI art, and all this drama will just blow over. People will forget that it's there in the background just doing its thing. And the people who are making animations and doing backgrounds and creating infographics will be just using AI like how everybody is using Photoshop now. So it's just to get past this phase, and you know, we are here to discuss this so that people can get ideas in how they can use AI, because regardless of the ethical dilemma, you know, and if that is fixed where you get rid of all the images of artists in the algorithm, there will be other images that the algorithm will has that nobody can argue that the AI is stealing their work, you know. So the AI generator will still be there at the end of that. So that's where so I love the idea that Kevin had about creating some 2D backgrounds. I'll definitely be using that. Thank you for that one. And that's it.
Okay, cool. All right, guys, it was great talking to you. And I have to leave you this joke what Jojo said. The day someone comments which AI you use today,
I was just laughing about it.
I'm going to retire.
What's that? Repeat that one.
She said the day somebody comments on their thing, which AI app you use to make that, she just going to retire.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
I think that's
funny.
Draw it with my hands. And you're like, really? And then people will like you more. They're like, oh my God, you can draw that with your own 2 hands? Like, that's amazing.
What you're saying is how I think it's going to go. Yeah. The persons who can do it by hand are going to be more valuable.
I think so too.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Enjoy yourself. This was a great chat for a nice random chat about AI. You know, I just decided to say, yo, this topic is so hot. Let's actually have a talk and a Caribbean perspective on it. And yo, you guys didn't disappoint. It's a great conversation. Should do stuff like this more often. But anyway, guys, enjoy your Christmas. Please keep safe in these weird times.
Even then, I'm a Christmas outfit. I did see me eat some cake while I'm not talk. So
yeah,
I don't get no cake yet, but soon. All right, everybody. Take care.
It was a great talk. Great, guys.
Yeah.